Fitzy, how you doing?
Hi, Amanda. I'm doing great.
I see the big smile and I see the doing great because I'm sure it is a relief, but also just something you guys have been working towards, you and your team, to getting this done. You've never wavered from Jesper being an important piece. How does it feel today waking up knowing that that part of the core you've been building is now secure?
Exciting, exciting. Sure, it's been a bit of a long road, but the ultimate goal was getting that email yesterday at 9:30 in the morning with his agent saying Jesper has accepted our terms and we have a deal, which was, I think our entire team, because it took a team to really get to this point. First and foremost, I have to commend Jesper's agent, Joaquin Pearson, and Rick Comero for working towards this result. Jesper, of course, his family, David Blitzer, Josh Harris, Tad Brown, who have been very supportive in helping me, build out this team the way I see it needs to be with a player like Jesper involved. And of course, it takes a village to get to where we are today. Scott Litwack, Kate Madigan, Tyler Dello, Marie Cannavale. I mean, these people, people don't know the people behind the scenes that really help get results like this.
What is it sort of what have been your initial conversations maybe with Jesper once it's done? Have you spoken to him, and what does this just sort of do for him?
I have not spoken to Jesper. He because of the time difference, and
True.
he was out celebrating with dinner with his agent and his family last night. But we have text and just the how elated we are, the joy, just knowing that we've got a core player wrapped up for the next 8 years is exciting. I know his teammates are very excited, in particular two centers that are on our team, Jack and Nico. So no, it's just he's excited. We're excited. It's behind us.
Yeah.
It's here. So that's all we're really dwelling on right now is the future.
And I suppose the last one from me, I suppose just the value in knowing throughout this whole process that he's always expressed the desire to want to be part of something here. He's a homegrown talent, like a lot of your really young core. What did that mean to you throughout the process and the patience that you were able to have, you and your team, knowing that he was really expressing that this is something that he wants to be a part of going forward? And does that help with patience?
For sure, but it says a lot about this young individual and his passion for this organization, the Jersey area. He calls it home. This is where he wanted to be. This is where we wanted him to be. We think we're just a perfect fit. Business is business, and negotiations are exactly what the definition tells you about negotiations. Two sides at different ends and are trying to get to the middle and compromise on something that makes sense for both sides. And then that's exactly what happened here. So Jesper, again, his desire to want to be here really helped the process. And obviously our desire to keeping him here long term was a mutual agreement.
Thanks, Fitz.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. We'll go to Anthony Facili, MSG.
Good morning, Fitzy. Question for you. This is quite a commitment. So what kind of message does it send to have, your three big guns signed now long-term, to Devil fans?
Well, first of all, I think the message is the commitment that we're getting from our ownership group, David Blitzer and Josh Harris. They understand and really helped guide the process of where we needed to go to get to where we want to be. And here we are as we continue to mature. But wrapping up, Jack and Nico and now Jesper long-term, obviously adding Dougie Hamilton long-term, the commitment of Andre Palat from an outside, seeing what we were building, wanting to be part of it. And then the rest of it. I mean, yesterday was just the start of my long summer and busy summer. So it's exciting, but it also tells you that New Jersey is a place where people and players want to be. One, because of the talent we have and the team we're building, but also I've said this multiple times. I personally think it's a hidden gem. People don't really know New Jersey until they get to New Jersey and understand what we have.
You mentioned the future now and the rest of the work you have. How important is it to chip away now at the rest of your players that have already been here and to try to keep them, on this team going to next year?
Yeah, well, it's business as usual. This is it's called the off season, but it's called the busy season for us. And so, sure, we got a lot of RFAs. We've got some decisions to make on some UFAs. We have a big RFA that's pending right now that we're working towards an agreement, trying in negotiation. So it's business as usual. So patience, understanding, their side, our side, whoever that player may be. There's no pecking order. All our players are important. Whatever piece they bring to the table is a very important piece. So we'll just keep chipping away.
You mentioned having to make tough decisions. Just the insight with the Severson situation, and also how did that basically help your cap to kind of move forward with Jesper?
Well, really, Damon Severson's been, he was brought up in this organization. He's drafted here. He started as a 19-year-old, been through the valleys of this organization. And as we're starting to head in the other direction, you know what, as a manager, and you're trying to build and you're trying to, really manage assets moving forward, when you have a team that you think will scratch and claw to make it in the playoffs, but you still probably have, we're talking a year ago this time, maybe one more kick at future assets, and you do that with your UFAs, right? We've seen this happen over and over again, but I really thought this was maybe definitely the last year. But at the 50 game mark, things changed. We were a good team. We were a playoff bound team. We felt good about ourselves. Good teams don't trade their so-called rentals. And Damon's earned this opportunity. He's been in the league a long time. He's earned this opportunity to maximize on his talent, his career. We applaud him, and we're so happy he got what he wanted. And in turn, I was able to turn him into a third round pick, which is pretty good.
And finally, I know that there's probably, I don't know if there is a pecking order, but just is Timo on top of that list?
Timo's agent, Claude Lemieux, and I have been in constant communication and working through proposals. And Timo knows. I spoke to him yesterday. He knows how much we want to continue this relationship long term. And he's reiterated that to me. This is where he wants to be. He sees himself as a devil, and asked his agent to negotiate an 8-year deal with us, long-term deal, and it's music to my ear. So we'll continue to kind of chip away at it, but the goal is to have Timo Meier in a Devils uniform for the next 8 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Vooch. We'll go to Ryan Novozinski, NJ.com.
Hey, Tom. Good morning, man, and congratulations.
Thanks, Ryan.
I wanted to ask, with the cap going up, and you hear all about how much it might go up in the next couple of years. Just how much, I guess, did that excite you with some of these deals that you were able to make, before some of that cap raise?
Well, the cap, they always say the cap's going to go up, but we ran into a little bit of trouble a few years back where it didn't. There's no guarantees that it continues to go up. We all believe it will, but I can't do business like that, wondering or planning on the cap going up 5% every year. Again, there's no guarantees of that. So with that being said, we just live today, and we try to project out on a player's worth and value, and as the cap hopefully continues to go up, it gives us more room to build around these core players, build around the edges, as I've been talking about. And edges meaning, here's your core, let's build around them. So again, I don't get too caught up on what the cap's going to look like in 3 years, because I live in today, right? Like I think I'd get myself in trouble. I'd get the organization in trouble if I started handing out money, assuming that the cap was going to go somewhere, and all of a sudden, whatever. You name it, sponsorships leave, whatever, and all of a sudden, hockey, the revenues aren't where the league thought they would be. So I just live in today, and we're just grateful that Jesper, his team, his family, our family have come to this agreement that we have him locked up for long term.
And I know you touched on, the Severson deal, and obviously that was a sign and trade, which is obviously a very unique thing in NHL history. So I guess, is that a strategy that you and other teams are going towards more? And maybe you could use that again this summer with some of your other UFAs?
Again, the CBA, well, it used to be where you could actually get a pick. The team could call you and say, I'll give you a seventh round pick to talk to a player. Hard pick. But if we sign them, we'll give you X. You can't do that anymore. There's no conditional agreements like that. So, you know what? I guess I look at it, if I had, if we eyed up a UFA and felt like this is where we want to be, and I was able to talk to an agent to say, given permission to talk to an agent of a player to see where they're at, yeah, I'd probably do the same thing and give up an asset. And I think you may see a trend that why not give a mid-round, maybe even a late-round pick to talk to a player or an agent to see if you get into a shorter to midterm. The sign and trades are a little different. That's where things kind of change with Damon. Knowing that, hey, there's going to be a pick here for any type of deal, but if it's a sign and trade, that may change the value of the return. And Jarmo Kekalainen was fantastic to work with, and again, I'm just so happy we were able to work something out.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it, man.
Okay, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll go to Mike Morreale, NHL.com.
Hey, Tom, thanks for doing this morning.
Hi, Mike.
So Tom, obviously this is a copycat league. Were you able to glean anything from the roster makeup of the Golden Knights and the type of team they had that was so dominant in the playoffs?
Again, I don't think so. Yeah, you call it a copycat league. We have our identity, and I'm not gonna sway from that because a bigger, heavy team won. I talk about building around the edges. Again, Palat, he's a heavy player. You watch the growth of Nolan Foote coming. Whenever he's ready, he's bigger. He's a bigger, stronger player. I do believe in the big mobile defenseman that can move pucks, take up space, take your time and space away. I think that's really where the game's at. That doesn't mean a smaller puck moving defenseman can't do that. I'm happy for them, but I would guess if I called Kelly McCrimmon, he'd say we were pretty healthy throughout the playoffs, and that's a key to winning is staying healthy.
Yeah, fair enough. Great to see you at the combine as usual. What did you kind of take away from the interviewing stage there in Buffalo, Tom? Like, as far as what you heard from the kids this year and, basically took away from the event. I know you were there for the interviews, so you got to maybe touch base with a lot of those kids.
Well, I'm just there to support my amateur staff for the hard work that they put in throughout the year. And, I think people understand what it's like to be a scout, how often you're on the road in different hotels and morning flights and getting in and being away from your family at lengths of time. So I was there just for support, listening in on the interview, the questions that we have with our sports psychologists, with our scouts that know the player and questions. Just seeing personalities, what's a kid like? A lot of these kids are pretty trained with their answers. So that doesn't surprise me, but you can get a feel for a kid's personality. But at the end of the day, they got to be able to play hockey, and they have to check off the boxes, the criteria that we want players to play for the New Jersey Devils.
And one more for me, Tom. Where does Mackenzie Blackwood fit in all this with Akira's emergence last year? Nico Dawes play down the stretch in Utica. Obviously VTech. Where is Mackenzie as far as the RFAs go for you?
Well, you know what, Mackenzie's a great kid. He's battled some injuries, not as catastrophic as it may seem. You go back to the COVID year, but prior to the COVID year, he was never hurt. He got COVID, hit him hard, probably the hardest on our team. And then he had the hail spur there. We call it the Bauer skate bump that a lot of players get. And he wanted that removed, and he got that removed, and it just took a little bit longer. then this year, everything was great. He was healthy. He started off fantastic, but got that groin injury against Edmonton and back in the fall. And you know what? Like, we've got some decisions. There's a QO that has to be presented to him on whether we do that, whether we try to negotiate something less, whether I move him. Those decisions are internal. We talk about it every day, but with the Kara's emergence, especially this past year, and obviously in the playoffs, it gives us excitement too, that we've got a kid that we believe can someday maybe take over the reins as the number one goalie. But he's still a young player. You got to remember, he was in the USHL 2 years ago. Had a fantastic year last year at the start of the year for Utica. And he played very well for us every game. And I know the confidence he put into our coaching staff for sure. And obviously the players that played in front of him. So these are good decisions to have. This is a lot different than last summer. That's for sure.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mike. We'll go to Trey Matthews, Pucks and Pitchforks.
Good morning, Tom. My first question to you is, I'm curious to hear your mindset for the rest of the offseason, because a few weeks ago you hinted at the fact that maybe you guys could pursue a first round draft pick, and obviously now you got Jesper Bratt signed long term. You talked about Timo Meier. So I'm given how the free agent market is, the trade market is, wherever the case might be, I just want to hear your thoughts on what's your approach for the rest of this offseason.
Well, the checklist is concentrating on our own players. Again, there's a UFA or two or three that we will continue to talk to their agents and see if it makes sense to bring back. As far as Timo is concerned, I said it earlier in the conversation that our goal hasn't swayed at all. It's to ink his name onto a contract that keeps him here for the next 8 years, and it's music to my ears and the organization's ears that he said the same thing back to us, which is great. So that's our goal. There's no time frame with that. As far as the draft, yes, I did say, you never know, right? You never know. Now that Jesper Bratt signed, that's one asset that potentially could have gotten me a first round pick, but we're not there. The draft's funny. You build up one day, next thing you know, you get a call, and next thing you know, so a team makes you start thinking about something differently. But like I said, I'm worried about today. I got a checklist today, Friday, the 16th of June, to really go through. And first and foremost is concentrating on our own players and trying to keep players here that continue to help us win.
Awesome. And my final question is, now that you got your young core re-signed for the long term, I want to hear some of the short-term goals you have for this team within the next year or so.
As far as what, personnel,
how much further do you think this team can go now that you have that young core set for the long-term future? I just want to hear how far do you think this team can go come next year, the year after, now that they have that playoff experience under their belt, they've gotten better, they've taken strides in their game. I just want to hear your thoughts on the matter.
Well, I think I said this at my year-end press conference, that the standard has been set, expectations have been set, and now it's go time. Are we going to be a 112-point team again? Well, that's pretty hard to do. Our goal is to play the best hockey we possibly can play for 82 games, get in the playoffs, and then push to win a Stanley Cup like everybody else. As we continue to mature as a group, as we continue to potentially add to the group, the most important thing is watching the core grow, develop. Now, and I said this, 3 years ago, we got some good kids. It's time to add some men to our lineup. We added some men to our lineup, but now we're watching our kids turn into men, and that's exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. And
you're welcome.
Congratulations on the signing once again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trey. We'll start to wrap up. A couple more questions here. We'll start with Bill Spalding, MSG.
Hey, Fitzy, good to talk with you.
Hi, Bill.
I'm curious if you can take me a little bit more into like the discipline that you have to have and like the patience you have to have in a negotiation like this when you kind of know the cap structure that you want to have and you may start kind of far apart and you really have to grind through a negotiation like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's what negotiations are all about. You know, this wasn't us really sticking or making a line in the sand. It was us, you know, explaining to them where we felt this deal should fall for Jesper to be here long term. And I understand their part. Their agents were looking out for Jesper's, you know, best behalf. Like they were looking out for Jesper and his future earnings. And again, that's part of negotiations. But at the end of the day, you need to want to be somewhere to get something done. And as we mentioned earlier, Jesper, like us, desperately wanted each other to be to coincide. Jesper wanted to be back here. We desperately wanted him to be a double for a long time. I think when you have that foundation, there's always a deal to be made. Yeah, and it took some time. And again, this wasn't the first negotiation that you know went as long as it did. Again, I commend Jesper's his agents for wanting to get a deal done. You got to want to get a deal done to get a deal done. If you're not interested in getting a deal done unless you pay X, then it's tough to negotiate. It's tough to get a deal done. And I think what Jesper, you know, actually saw was as we talked, he and I, about how to team build. If every player is going to take every single crumb on the table, then that's going to leave zero crumbs for other important pieces that we're trying to put together. You know, there's a lot of guys on this team repricing themselves. So if everybody's going to take a 75 or a 25% raise or 30%, there's not enough money to go around. So there has to be an understanding, there has to be a buy-in, and there has to be a want to be here and understand team building. And Jesper definitely understood that. So I commend him for his you know, his patience for this organization, passion for the organization. And here we are.
Well, that kind of leads me into my last question perfectly then. Like, obviously, these are the signings where we have press conferences and talk to you, and they're the ones that get the headlines. But to build a team, you need to sign all your third and fourth line guys, your young RFAs and things like that as well. How much more difficult is it to actually figure out how to fit all those pieces together inside the cap over, say, the next month or two than it may be to knock out one or two of these big contracts?
Well, I mentioned earlier, Scott Litwack is a big part of team building. You know, how we project salaries, how we budget individuals, ranges that we budget, try to stay in those parameters. Look at the Golden Knights. You know, they had a fourth line that was extremely important to their success this year. And I believe, and I know our top players understand that every player on our team is important to the success we have. So those guys want to make as much money as they can make as well. But if everybody up top takes all the money, then I'm not sure what our bottom looks like. So what I'm trying to do is create depth, create an understanding with our top players, you know, how we can be better as an organization. I think probably the biggest reason the Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup is because they probably have the best depth in the league. And that's our goal, is to build out our depth. But there's got to be crumbs on the table left so I can do that.
Thanks, Fitzy.
Welcome,
Thank
Bill.
you. Thanks, Bill. We'll go to Jeeves Nichols.
Hey, Fitz, how you doing? Congrats on the contract with Jesper.
Thank you.
My first question is about, you know, we talked about the restricted free agents. We talked about the unrestricted free agents, but I was curious about Dawson Mercer. He'll be eligible to sign an extension on July 1st. Is there a desire to maybe get that done early? Has there been dialogue between you and his camp maybe to get that process started?
To be honest, I haven't had dialogue with his camp yet. It's something I'd like to explore. Sure, we can do that right on July 1st. We could do it on August 1st too. We could do it on September 1st as well. July 1st is just the start time. And I do plan on talking to his representatives just to see where they're at, what their vision is, and then how that fits into what we're trying to do right now. There's no rush, but I definitely would like to explore, tying this young man up long term.
And obviously, before you know it, it'll be time to sign some free agents. Do you anticipate you'll have the or have the need to explore unrestricted free agency, or do you think that you have the depth within the organization to ice a team in October from within?
Well, again, I have to see where our restricted free agents are. Again, we do budget, we do project openings. Like we talked about some UFAs that we have. Will they be coming back? What kind of opening does that leave us? What's that money look like? What do we have to spend? So right now I'm concentrating on the internal dominoes and where they fall to see what we will need. But we will be in touch with certain free agents that we think can help our team and explore those options. But my priority right now is to continue to build, keep the guys that we have, and then again, fill what we need.
Thanks, Fitz.
Welcome.
Thanks, James. We'll wrap up with one final question. We'll go back to Amanda Stein, NewJerseyDevils.com.
It's a very simple question. When did you know that Jesper Bratt was a special player?
I would say I would have to go back to the summer of 2016. And I think I'm on record of saying this. When I watched him play at the World Junior camp in Plymouth, Michigan, while he represented Sweden, and watched his edge work, his puck play, his quickness, I just said, "Ooh, wow, we may have a really good player here from the 6th round." So that was probably the first time where I went, "I'm gonna like this kid." So, and then he just got better and better. Listen, he came in, and the coaching staff, Pride Lindy, John Hines, and his staff, we couldn't send him back to junior. Don't forget, he came over. He was going to play, I think, for the London Knights, but he never got there because he made it really hard every single day. He got better and better and better, and I think that's the thing about that. It is the thing about Jesper. He just continues to get better and better and better, and you just can't bet against this kid.